Today we look at the last of Rabban Gamliel's elements that he felt were necessary as part of the Haggadah, that of Maror. So we're very familiar with the description of Maror found in the Haggadah, that we eat the Maror because the Egyptians embittered the lives of our ancestors in Egypt. The truth is that the Torah actually never explicitly gives this explanation for the mitzvah of Maror. The Torah, in a number of places, talks about the obligation that part of the experience of eating the Karban Pesach is the eating of marorim, of bitter herbs, but never defines why. And the Haggadah really does the extra mile by pointing out the similarity to the word vayimareru, the verb the Torah uses to describe the embittering of our ancestors' lives in bondage. However, there is an alternative way of reading the Torah's mitzvah of Maror, which I think is complementary to that of Rabban Gamliel. And that's found in the commentary of the Orach Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Ibn Attar, on the Torah, where he points out that the truth is the eating of a sharp vegetable, either together with or immediately prior to the consumption of roasted meat, is actually a very elegant way of bringing out the flavor of the meat. And that really is, if one thinks of any kind of analog, whether it be the use of lettuce in a sandwich, horseradish with meat, wasabi with all kinds of different kinds of preparations, the notion that the function of maror is essentially to serve as a condiment or as a palate preparer for the Karban Pesach, I think is actually a really intriguing one. If one discounts everything that we've been brought up with about what the significance of the maror is. And the truth is, this also explains the fact that the truth is that from the Torah, there is no mitzvah to eat maror today at all. The only biblical mitzvah of eating maror is when it's eaten together with the Karban Pesach. Again, depending on which opinion that one follows, either immediately prior or literally with the Karban Pesach itself. It was only after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash that the rabbis extended this to include our starim as well, a new rabbinic mitzvah to continue the consumption of maror at the Seder. The truth is, this actually functions very well together with what the Haggadah teaches us. Because what's the idea of the mitzvah of eating maror? That the significance of the maror, the real significance of the maror, is when that sense of bitterness leads us in a constructive direction. When it does so, right, when it moves us to pray to God, to look to make changes, right, then that maror, literally, the bitter experience brings out the flavor of the redemption that follows, that we appreciate the redemption more when it's seen holistically in conjunction with the bitterness. However, if we never get to that point of deliverance, the bitter experiences are just that. And therefore, the Torah only commands us to eat maror, to experience that bitterness, to relive that bitterness, only in the context of the Karban Pesach, which represents ultimate redemption. Now, then one might ask, why is it the rabbis extended this mitzvah? So perhaps the hope is that by being able to focus us on our experience of bitterness, again, whether personally or naturally, the hope is to, in the context of Pesach, to inspire us to move in a similar direction of our ancestors, to cry to Hashem, to look what can be done to improve things, hoping that way to effect an experience that will not just be bitter, but bitterness that brings out the flavor and the experience of redemption.